is the 80th anniversary celebration. It's the holiday that means the most to at least one person in Russia. That is, of course, Vladimir Putin. It does mask, I would argue, the frailties of Russia's economy, less so, but certainly its military. The fact that its military is obviously fighting a war, has been fighting a war for 3 years, whatever the Kremlin calls it, in Ukraine. They are rebuilding their military, but naturally, a lot of their forces are in Ukraine, but we can probably expect to see some of their latest technology on Red Square today. Whether it will actually work is another matter. There's the famous example of the Armata tank, which Putin had lauded as the best tank ever created, which made its way onto Red Square, managed to get round the corner before it broke down. So we'll have to wait and see. And last year, I think there was only one tank, and it was a T-72 from the Soviet Union. So we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, certainly they're going to put out all the stops. They certainly have done by closing down the internet in Moscow and Greater Moscow. And we are seeing dignitaries arriving, from Xi Jinping of China to Robert Fico from Slovakia and Alexander Vucic in Serbia and various other dignitaries as well. So they are trying to highlight they're not isolated, that it's business as usual, and that Russia has the capacity to show military force. But we have to remember that a lot of this is for show. Certainly, Putin wants to show that he's strong, and also, more importantly, that he's not isolated. Hence why we've seen these dignitaries come to Moscow. Especially, and it's a particular coup, if you want to call it that Robert Fico has come because Slovakia is a member of the EU. It shows that and also NATO, it shows that both organizations are divided, the fact that they're not all speaking with one voice. Then you have added to that not just Xi Jinping, who's the head of the global south, as he calls it, or the developing world, and Russia likes to play a role in regards to this as well. But you see others from Latin America, Cuba, Venezuela, and Africa, Burkina Faso, Niger, and the Republic of Congo, if my memory serves me correctly, all have people there. And of course, India, whilst it doesn't have Narendra Modi, isn't there because of what's happening between India and Pakistan, the deputy foreign minister is in Moscow, as far as I'm aware. So certainly, it's highlighting that Russia is not isolated, that Russia actually has the majority of the world's population behind it. I mean, it would do if you have China and India as an organization. So it's certainly important in regards to that. Now, the relationship between Russia and China, I don't think China wants to see Russia lose this war. And so it will keep on propping up the Russian economy as much as it can. At the same time, it is risk averse. It is worried about the possibility of secondary sanctions. It was under Joe Biden, and therefore didn't provide Russia with everything that it needed. And Chinese companies did back out, especially Chinese banks. I think China is also reticent because no one is quite certain what Donald Trump is going to do next. Donald Trump is taking the mad approach to foreign policy, and he may decide that enough is enough, and he implements secondary sanctions. He may also walk away from Ukraine. We simply don't know. We're continually guessing about Donald Trump. But Russia does want to show, or Putin rather, does want to show that he's strong. Historically, Russian leaders have never cared that much about the loss of life on the Russian side. They believe that they have the capacity and they do have the manpower. A large population, 147 million officially, possibly more, possibly a lot less. Who knows? Statistics don't really matter in Russia. So it will certainly, he believes he's winning this war. He believes he can outlast the West. And at the moment, Donald Trump seems to be doing his very best to give Vladimir Putin what he wants. So we'll have to wait and see. But to put no finer points on it, no, he's not going to keep on stopping. And there's also the argument that because the Russian economy is so focused on the military side, and we're seeing shifts in factories, 3 shifts every day, building drones, that there is increased wages for factory workers, that they are turning out a lot of material. Whether that material is any good is another matter, but they are turning out a lot of material. And so winning themselves off a military economy is going to be very hard, especially as the social sector is basically zombified now. And so building back up, getting that economy resuscitated will be very, very difficult. So there is certainly an argument that Putin needs the war to continue or to have another war, depending on whether they find peace. So the long and the short of it is, no, I don't think they want to negotiate. They're quite clear about this. They want demilitarization, facts on the ground, plus what they don't actually have on the ground as well, and denazification, which is Ukrainian regime change, effectively. Certainly, Western sanctions have played a role. Sanctions always take time. We have seen that, yes, sanctions have played a role within degrading Russia's economy. Certainly, the military side is important because obviously it's where the economy is focused. But sanctions and the price of oil, the price cap on oil, which did seem to work for a while, did have some great, I would say, points towards degrading the Russian economy. But on top of that, you also see now that the price of oil has gone down again. This is a problem for the Russian economy in general. It's over reliant on selling natural resources. Natural resource prices fluctuate. They always have done. So in terms of the price of oil and gas, they are going down at the moment. China's economy seems to be slowing. We don't know what Donald Trump will do tomorrow. Not just in terms of the economy, just in general, but in terms of the economy, he could reactivate tariffs. He could also stop tariffs. He could decide that the economic agreement he's just signed with the British is not beneficial to America. He blows it up. He could do the same with the natural resources deal he's just signed with the Ukrainians. I suspect that may happen, but that's a prediction, and political scientists don't like to predict. So there's many things that could possibly happen, but at the moment, certainly sanctions have bitten into the Russian economy. Putin is stringing Trump along. And we saw J.D. Vance talking to Fox News I think it was last night, saying that the Russians' negotiating tactics are unrealistic, wanting territory they don't control. But don't worry, because we'll be able to get them down, because this is how you negotiate. You start from a position of what you absolutely want, a maximalist approach, and you whittle it down. Vance, at least, is still under the belief that they can talk to the Russians. Donald Trump seems to be under the belief that they can talk to the Russians. Now we're told that he can solve the crisis in one day. That was a joke. The 100 days, they've been and gone, and now we're going to have another 100 days, possibly. He keeps on sending messages on Truth Social telling Vladimir to stop and that he doesn't want to see the killing, and the killing continues, and very little seems to happen. So I think that Donald Trump will eventually, it seems to want a deal. And having said that, given a deadline of 100 days and now 200 days, it's quite clear, at least from my understanding, that Donald Trump wants to have a Nobel Peace Prize. And one of the ways to get that would be to solve the Ukraine war. So Putin can keep on stringing Trump along until Trump gets either desperate or bored and either kicks Ukraine down again, because it's much easier to coerce Ukraine into a bad deal than it is to coerce Russia, primarily because Trump has absolutely no control over Putin. But also he could just walk away. And we'll have to wait and see.